What a beautiful morning it is in the world of Kingdom Come Deliverance. KCD was not only one of the shining glories of the last few years, but perhaps even the last decade. The first-person medieval RPG took a new direction of target-based combat, beautiful graphics, and incredibly buggy kicking mechanics. Yet every year, I love to look back at the game, how it has evolved, any important news, and what we can expect for the future. By the way, I am fully aware the Sexy Biscuit channel also does this, and now it kind of seems like a competition who can get theirs up first. However, I'm fat and lazy, so I never win. So go and sub over there, because it's better content than mine anyway. Yet despite all the action in the medieval world recently, KCD has been a rather stale moment in time. It seems Warhorse has released all, if not most, of the content that they planned, so the lull and radio silence could be an indication for some new announcements on the horizon maybe. However, despite this, there has been some good and, well, awful changes in the KCD landscape recently, so without further ado, let's repeat another terrible video concept of a game that hasn't actually really changed that much since launch. So, this is Kingdom Come Deliverance 4 years later. After the first very successful 3 years with updates, expansions, and new DLCs, Kingdom Come went from a Kickstarter from a new company to a mainstream title and one of the first words in people's mouths when the conversation came to medieval games. And because of this, in its 4th year, the title managed to hit over 4 million copies sold, with an addition of winning Game of the Decade at the Czech Game Awards. Pretty impressive feat if you ask me. The steady growth is shown in the concurrent players as well. Since launch has been pretty stable, with a solid 6,500 players at any one time, and that's not even regarding any of the console releases. For a single player title, that's an incredibly long lasting game. Could this be down to all the extra DLCs? Perhaps. There is a good amount of content there, but I hazard a guess that most of this is people just playing the base game because there's so much to do, not just the main storyline, but the whole open world and the side quests around it. Furthermore, it can be approached in so many different ways that the replayability for KCD for a single player game is vast. But despite the continued success of KCD, this year particularly hasn't been all that plain sailing. E3 was on its way. Of course, fans were anxious. Would we see anything this year? Would there be an announcement on the rumours of a sequel in the works? I mean, we had leaked mocap pics, hints at a new project being underway at the development studio, and now Warhorse were teasing a big announcement this year at E3. Could it be? F***ing soap? Ah! I didn't make a video on it at the time, but for some strange reason, Warhorse did this whole countdown thing for E3, and of course that hyped people up. There's no way they couldn't have seen that coming along. Many people assumed it would be a sequel or something else being announced, and they announced Soap. There was always this conversation of development studios like Tailworlds being very separate from their fan base, not being so communicative with it until, of course, more recently, and Warhorse studios were always so hands-on with their fan base. Yet I think this is just one of the reasons why sometimes being hands-on can be a negative. It doesn't seem to be the most thought-out bit of marketing either. There's no way people at Warhorse were like, nah, people won't think it's a sequel. People are going to expect something small. Why would you hype up something to come at E3 and then announce Soap? Also, why Soap? Or even if you feel the need to do Soap, which I think is one of the weirdest merch decisions ever, why make a big announcement about it? Especially at E3. This might sound harsh, but at the end of the day, Warhorse is a company. And yes, there are people that work for this company, but this Soap was, of course, just a marketing thing rather than an actual want to sell some good merch to fans. And I'm going to be honest, no one cares about Soap. That might sound harsh, but I think I speak on behalf of most Kingdom Come fans, but nobody cares about Soap. Literally no one. Especially sweaty nerds. We all stink. What do you think we need Soap for, man? Anyway, that aside, the KCD now has an announcement that it's moved to Prime Matter, a sort of new publishing studio that's kind of put games like KCD and Mount & Blade Bannerlord under their wing. They're doing some different things with it. And with that, the announcement that Kingdom Come Deliverance is going to move on into bigger things, talking about KCD being now a franchise rather than just a standalone game. Not only indicating that there may be a sequel in the works at this point in time, but that there may be things other than just this main storyline that we might be getting, and this comes in different forms as well. Recently announced, we've had a prequel comic. Yes, I know, still kind of disappointing. I know there's so many comic fans out there, but for me, I'm not interested in comics at all. But it is the notion that they're trying to expand KCD as something more than just the 2018 release. Of course, we might be getting more games in the future, but trying to build it up as a big franchise is definitely the direction that I can see Prime Matter and Warhorse going in. Once again, there was also the release of KCD on Switch. It's going to be interesting to see how that fares out. As far as I'm aware, that announcement was actually a little bit of a leak by the Nintendo Store or something like that. Once again, they're expanding the platform. So that begs the question, what is the future for Kingdom Come? As far as it's going at the moment, this will be my last video on the yearly updates. There probably won't be a 5 years later, especially since we might have something new by then anyway. But even if we don't, I'm probably not going to come to it. But hey, this also could be my last Kingdom Come video unless something big happens. I just feel like the game now has sort of run its course. It did what it wanted to do, and it did it very, very well. The game as a core, I think it is brilliant. Despite some of the things that Warhorse have done surrounding it by honestly unnecessary merch that, okay, it's fine to do that, but don't hype it up to your fans. It's kind of misleading. But really, I think that's the life cycle. I think Kingdom Come Deliverance has completed its objective, and all in all, I'm very happy with the way it's gone. So this could be a goodbye for Kingdom Come Deliverance, at least for me. I might play it more in the future, just in my own spare time, but in terms of actual real content, in terms of new things that I can bring to you guys that are still exciting and still haven't been discovered and explored, I don't think there's anything left in this title. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. As mentioned, I think Kingdom Come Deliverance has lasted way longer than anyone really expected. Not only was it so much more successful than it, really should have been for a first IP, because it just hit the mark with so many medieval fans like me, but it has also stood the test of time. Maybe it will come back when we get a sequel that will hopefully continue the story of Henry and Hans Capon. Maybe we will go back to this title and see what can be gained from a new experience, seeing it in the context of a bigger and perhaps more complete storyline, as there was a cliffhanger that wasn't really resolved or hasn't been yet. But please let me know what you think. Do you think there's anything else really to explore with this game, or has Kingdom Come Deliverance reached its full potential? I think, and personally, it has completed its job. But please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Yet until then, I will see you in the next one.